Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to 5 to Thrive Live. I'm Karolyn Gazella, and I'm here with my co-host and good friend, Dr. Lise Schuler. Hello, Lise. How are you?
Hello, Karolyn.
I'm very upbeat today.
Are you? Yeah, I can hear that. I'm pretty upbeat too. Well,
good.
let's go. Let's have an upbeat show.
Good. Okay. Well, how about if I just jump in and describe the topic?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do it. Okay, so today we're going to do a little different take on New Year's resolutions. You know, about this time of year, some people who have created their list of resolutions are about to give up. And that's one of the reasons I don't do resolutions, because they seem impermanent and sometimes a little difficult. So today we'll be talking about changing behaviors for the long haul throughout the year, not just in January. We'll be giving tips in 5 key areas of the 5 to Thrive plan, which include spirit, rejuvenation, movement, diet, and environment. But first, Lise, why don't you go ahead and thank our sponsors?
I'd love to. Okay, so first I'm going to start with Cetria, which is a patented form of glutathione, clinically proven to raise blood glutathione levels. And glutathione is the body's master antioxidant and the body's primary defense against free radicals, which are otherwise very damaging. Glutathione also helps to support respiratory health, and you can learn more at cetriaglutathione.com. Also, ProThrivers Wellness Brain, a product specifically designed for thrivers that contains cognizin for memory, focus, and attention, as well as other brain-supporting nutrients and herbs. And you can find ProThrivers Wellness Brain online at pureformulas.com. There's also ProThrivers Wellness Sleep, which is a product that combines higher dose melatonin and other sleep-supporting natural ingredients, again, specifically designed for thrivers. And you can find ProThrivers Wellness Sleep at pureformulas.com. And finally, Dr. Ohhira's Probiotics, best-selling probiotic for more than 30 years, with 12 probiotic strains that are shelf-stable, no refrigeration required because of a unique 3-year fermentation process, a very effective probiotic, and you can learn more at drohhiraprobiotics.com. So with that, Karolyn, where would you like to begin?
Well, first of all, I want to tell our listeners that you and I do not know what the strategies we're each going to provide. So we've been doing this for about 30 years. We've been doing this show for about 16 years. So there may be duplication. And if there's duplication, pay attention. So we don't want to overwhelm you, but we do want to give you choices. We're going to be giving a lot of tips today. So it's important that you probably shouldn't try everything we suggest. Maybe listen, take some notes, then choose just a few strategies to focus on. Choose the tips that resonate most, or maybe hit a target area of your life that you'd like to improve a bit. At least I'd love to start with spirit. And when we talk about spirit with the 5 to Thrive plan, we're talking about non-religious spirituality. Although if you have a religious practice, that's great too. Spirit for us is about connection to self, nature, and even humanity. And it's a connection in a mindful way that may require some self-reflection and maybe some proactivity. So Lise, why don't you give us your 2 favorite spirit strategies and tell us why you like those?
Okay. Well, I think actually in that little intro, you sort of captured one of them, which is just really acknowledging the connection that we have to each other and that we are each a vital part of a greater whole. And I think that it's always important to remember that even if we're feeling lonely, and believe me, I felt lonely, we all feel lonely, even when we're feeling lonely, we're still experiencing that loneliness in the context of being in a collective. Why are we feeling lonely? Because of our desire for connection. So it actually is a sort of the flip side of our feeling that we yearn for or long for greater and deeper connection. And I would say pay attention to that because that's so important for the spirit.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So should I just go on with my second one?
Yes, we're going to do this rapid fire. You do two, I do two, keep
Okay.
going.
Okay. All right. So my second one is you mentioned that when we talk about spirit, we're talking about spirit in a non-religious sense. And so I'm going to say my second strategy is prayer. And I mean that in a non-religious sense as well, although it can be. But I think it's absolutely critical to have a prayerful attitude and even a prayerful practice on a regular basis, because it's with that practice that we acknowledge our connection to whatever we want to call it, the collective, the field, God, the greater good, however it resonates with you. And in that sense, again, we get a sense of our place in the world, but also with us, with that connection, or that connection is infused with a sense of humility, gratitude, and acknowledgement of our limitations and openness to experiencing and learning more.
Love it.
Okay, your turn. 2 strategies for spirit.
Okay, my two that I'm going to choose. The first, well, I'm going to say them both. I'm going to choose congruence and creativity. So those are my two strategies to focus on. I love congruence because congruence is all about authenticity, having your actions and your thoughts and your purpose, having everything match up and doing it in an authentic way and being mindful about how we act, how we think, and how we present ourselves, and doing that in a congruent way. So that's my first one. My second one is a new favorite, and it's creativity. And the reason I wanted to bring up creativity is because I think we often think of creativity as, oh, I have to be a Mozart, or I have to write a best-selling novel like Nora Roberts, or, I have to be Mary Oliver and a great poet. But that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about tapping into our own creativity. And the point I wanted to bring about with creativity is that it can not only be simple, it can also be infused in your daily activity. So the reason I'm so fond of creativity is because it has such health benefits. We know that when we're acting from a creative standpoint, we have less anxiety, we feel more relaxed, and our health benefits, our physical, mental, emotional health benefits when we're in that creative mindset. So think about it, like if you're making dinner, how can you be creative with dinner? Either how you cook it, how you present it, how you enjoy it. Gardening. People love to garden. They love to work out in their yard. That's a very creative process. Journaling in the morning. Even you mentioned prayer. Having your prayer be a little bit creative and doing a gratitude prayer one day and then another type of prayer another day. So infusing creativity into your daily routine is my second spiritual strategy. So now let's do rejuvenation next. So that's the stress management part of the 5 to Thrive plan. So Lise, give us two of your favorite rejuvenation strategies. And if you'd like to comment on my spirit strategies, feel free. Although it's rapid fire.
No, they're both, I think, fantastic, and so far we're aligning quite nicely. So let's see if we continue. There's
Okay.
so much I could say about rejuvenation. I've given day-long presentations on rejuvenation and stress management, so I have a lot to say about it. But I'm going to kind of take a little left field turn on this, and my first strategy is solitude. And the reason I say that is because I think in today's world, which is only getting faster, by the way, artificial intelligence and all of the speed of this current of information that we're all wading and swimming in, not even wading anymore, we're like almost drowning in, is only picking up in speed. And so we have to be able to take ourselves out of that stream of information and decision making and stimulus, and just take a moment to be in solitude, which for most people is in nature, not always, but it usually involves quiet, at least inner quiet. We can be in a noisy environment and still have a sense of solitude, but it really needs to be a place of deep inner peace, calm, and centeredness. And I think that's essential to rejuvenation. Second strategy is a little bit on the opposite side, but similarly important, is laughter.
Mm.
And I think that even, there's lots of studies and we've done shows on the benefit of the physical benefits of just laughing, even if you don't find anything funny. Laughter yoga takes advantage of that. So there is that. But I think actually finding humor and just seeking the lightness of the moment or something about yourself is just so important. It gives a certain perspective and it frees up the creative side of our brain, to your point earlier, and it helps us to recalibrate our stress response. So those are my two offerings, solitude and laughter. Okay, Carolyn, what you got?
Well, mine dovetails nicely with your first one, and it is nature. I think being out in nature is incredible. And I encourage our listeners to actually be silent and really be in awe and really take in nature. So, rather than listening to a podcast while you're out on your walk, have more of a mindful walk in nature, because research shows that that's going to have more benefit. So I think, and I love your solitude, because I feel that we are not silent enough sometimes because there is so much going on. So yeah, being silent in nature is my first one. And I'm going to mention a really practical one, at least for rejuvenation, and that's sleep. We know that rejuvenation, relaxation, stress management, and sleep go hand in hand. When we are sleeping, we are better able to manage our stress. We feel more rejuvenated. So there are a lot of, we've done show after show on sleep, and whether it's sleep hygiene, doing a really cool, relaxing routine before you go to bed, or relying on dietary supplements. There's many out there, and feel free to like try melatonin. If that doesn't work, then try lemon balm or try some tea or whatever. There's a lot of sleep strategies that you can access. And I just encourage our listeners to get enough sleep, and that's going to help with the rejuvenation. Okay,
Love it.
good, good. So I know this one you love, and I love. Our next one is movement. So, Lise, what are your two exercise tips for movement?
So the first one is consistency. And I know everybody knows, yeah, I know I need to exercise X number of days a week, but I'm actually speaking about consistency in terms of the time of day. It has to be embedded into your day-to-day routine, or however many days a week you're going to do it, in order for it to be sustainable. And the benefits of exercise really come through sustainability. So I think that it's very important to find a way to embed it into your routine. Like, for example, I wake up earlier than I normally would in order to exercise every morning. So I set the alarm earlier, and it's the first thing I do in the morning. It's just how I start my day. And really, at this point, I have a hard time when I don't start my day that way. Um, and that's after years of doing it that way. So I think consistency is really important. That extends a little bit into the type of exercise, but not fully. You can do different kinds of exercise. And that kind of gets me to my second tip, which is enjoyment. And I think that exercise, if it's a drudgery, it's just, who wants to sustain something that they don't enjoy? So it's really important to find a way that exercise or movement becomes enjoyable, whether it's because of where you do it in nature, for example. Um, whether you do it in a way that allows you to listen to music, or maybe it gets you out of the house and you get to go to a class and meet new people, or maybe you have an exercise buddy that you like, or maybe you have you pair something with the exercise that gives you some enjoyment. For example, I vary my exercise. When I do yoga, my dogs like to do the yoga with me. Not really, but they think they're doing the yoga with me, but it's kind of become a little fun. So I think those kind of things are really important. So consistency and enjoyment. Okay,
I
Carolyn, what are yours?
I love it. I love it. I love it. And my one of mine was consistency. There's our first
Uh-huh.
duplicate. So I'm just going to use my example. So every morning, while I'm waiting for my coffee in my kitchen, there are 8-pound weights, and I do just a few arm exercises. Doesn't take me long at all. It's the most consistent thing I do, even more consistent than my hiking, even more consistent than anything, because my weights are sitting there right next to my coffee maker. And I'll tell you, my arms can tell the difference. So I agree, consistency. And I love yours about enjoyment. I'm going to take another practical one with my second strategy, and I'm going to ask people to consider body weight exercises. And the reason I like this strategy is because it doesn't require any money. If you take a class or you buy a gym membership or you have to buy equipment, that all takes money. But you know what? With body weight, all you need is you. So examples are squats, push-ups, lunges, planks, even those arm exercises that I'm doing. Those do have the weights that you need to get, but those are pretty economical. But I like the idea, and you can go online and you can find YouTube direction on body weight exercises and how to do those properly. I happen to like to do squats in the kitchen as well. So I like body weight exercises. So okay, now let's move to diet. Lise, give us 2 diet tips that people can focus on.
So there's so much about diet that we could say, and I think, as I continue to study the health benefits that we can accrue through our diet, a couple of factors come through very strongly, and one is to avoid as much as we can overeating. And so any way in which you can reduce your total caloric intake is helpful. The specific tip that I'm going to suggest is to reduce portions, and that's hard to do for lots of people for lots of reasons. But so the tip within the tip is to help to minimize portions by slower eating. The best way I found to encourage this is to literally put down the utensil you're using to eat with, like the fork, put it down between each bite and let yourself kind of really chew, swallow, digest the bite, pause before you pick up your fork and eat the next bite. It slows your eating down quite a bit. And what is happening by slowing down your eating is you're allowing your stomach to fill, and for the signal that, hey, I'm kind of full, I've had enough, to get to your brain to override the, oh, this is so good, I love eating, I feel, great when I'm eating, and just to override that signal and actually allow you to maybe not go back and get a second portion or whatever the case might be. So portion control through slower, mindful eating. And then my next tip around this is water. And this is just, again, a way to kind of help your body develop maybe a sense of fullness between meals when otherwise you might reach for a snack. And water is so hydrating and so important for health overall. So I'm going to stick with those, my final answers. And I know what you're going to say for one of them, so I left it for you.
Well, I mean, first of all, my first strategy was cut down on quantity. So I'm telling you, you and I are tracking beautifully today. But the research, seriously, the research on mindful eating, people can lose weight. They feel more energized. And it makes eating more of an experience. So I love that. Now, the way that I cut down on quantity, I think in general we as humans are eating too much. So I think that can get us into trouble. So the way that I cut down on quantity is with overnight fasting. But there are other ways. With overnight fasting, I find that I eat, 2 meals a day, and I'm just eating less.
Mhm.
But that doesn't work for everybody. So what I would suggest is to focus on some practical things. For example, if you eat dessert every night, then just do dessert on the weekends. If you drink soda every day, cut back on the soda. So you can kind of pick apart your eating habits and pick a few areas where you could reduce consumption. And I think that that's good. And my second strategy relates to that soda. Um, I think it's really important to significantly limit the amount of ultra processed foods that we are consuming, soda being one of them. But, they're fast foods, donuts, chips, boxed crackers, all those kinds of things. Any food that contains 5 or more ingredients that includes preservatives, sweeteners, and artificial colors and flavors, those are bad for us. And honestly, the research is more compelling than ever. We know that ultra processed foods can harm our health. So reducing ultra processed foods is my second strategy. So read labels carefully and choose wisely when it comes to the foods that we're eating. And by
Mhm.
the way, I love your hydration. I mean, we can become dehydrated and we don't even know it. And
Yeah.
it's so critical. So I love that one a lot. Okay. So last but not least, Lise, give us 2 environment tips.
Okay, and I love how you're letting me go first
I
all
know.
show.
Hey, do you want to mention just briefly why environment is so important?
Yeah, so, our the environment in which we live, meaning the external outside environment, and also the environment in our homes, in our cars, et cetera, our workplaces, is something that our body is constantly sampling and reacting to. And the higher the quality of the environment in terms of clean, pure air, good, clean, pure water, etc., the less inflammatory compounds we're exposed to, which our body then has to deal with. And dealing with inflammatory, what we call environmental toxicants, is not, it's a bit of a costly process to the body, and it can actually trigger an inflammatory response, which can get perpetuated over time. And some of those environmental toxins are directly damaging to cells too.
Mm-hmm. Good
Okay.
one. Yes.
So my first one is to avoid synthetic fragrances. These are just ubiquitous, and they're just not good for our bodies at all. All synthetic fragrances, for the most part, are classified carcinogens, and the more we expose to them. So most of these environmental toxicants harm us when we have low levels of exposure day in, day out. And that's what typically happens with synthetic fragrances. So these are the fragrances that off gas from everything from the laundry detergent that we might use, which, by the way, or the dish detergent, which we know when it's heated, it sort of aerosolizes more. It can include that. It can include, car air fresheners. It can include cologne and perfumes, body lotions, all sorts of things. And all of these fragrances, although they might smell good, it's like we're introducing a very challenging thing for our body to essentially detoxify all the time. So that's an important one. And then this one's going to kind of be a surprise to you, I think, Carolyn, but in the category of environment, I'm going to put as my second tip to minimize clutter. And the reason I say that is because when our environments are really cluttered, so they're sort of disorganized, chaotic spaces, our bodies have it's subtly overwhelming for us, and it's or overtly overwhelming, and it's hard for us to develop a sense of calm, centered creativity, the things we talked about when we talked about spirit and rejuvenation. So even though it's something that's not exactly an environmental toxicant, I think having a very cluttered environment is damaging to our mental, emotional health and well-being. And, just to make it a little bit more directly relevant to environmental toxicity, if people have a lot of clutter, there's no way they're cleaning all that clutter. So there is a greater deposition of dust, and dust is one of the key ways in which the air that we breathe in the homes that we live in convey environmental toxicants. So those are my two.
I love that. And here again, at the top of my list was avoid synthetic fragrances.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna dig down a little bit because I have one in particular that I just those air fresheners, especially those plug-in gadgets that continually spew phthalates and other harmful chemicals in our home, in our car environment. I know for a fact that if I'm in a home that has those plug-in air fresheners, I get a headache. I mean,
Mhm.
I do not do well with that. So I'm right on board with that. And there are a lot. I mean, there's also spray that they spray into the environment in your home and your car, and I just think that remember what you're spraying is what you're ingesting. The other thing that I like to focus on is all natural products when possible. I realize that this is not possible all the time because sometimes these all natural products, whether they be skincare or cleaners, uh, they can be a little bit more expensive. But I really believe that if you can, whenever you can, use all natural skincare and cleaning products whenever possible. I feel that that's absolutely critical. And I want to talk about your clutter one because I agree with you, and we've written about this, and we know that clutter it's not good for our central nervous system. But I want to add something that's even more positive. When you think of your surroundings, think about the photos that you have, the artwork that you have on the walls, and just how, like plants. Lisa, I know you're huge into plants, and plants are great for the environment because they actually detoxify the environment. So think about what you're surrounding yourself. I have what's called a frameo that my nieces and nephews can send me pictures of their kids, and honestly, those pictures make me smile, and I look at those pictures as I sit in my rocking chair. It's like the highlight of my day when I get a picture sent to that frame. It just makes my day. So, what are you surrounding yourself in your home environment? And here again, it doesn't have to be expensive. It can be photos, plants, whatever. What makes you feel good in your environment? Those positive things, and that's going to have an impact on your health.
Yeah, for sure. So, Carolyn, we have just covered a lot of key tips in the 5 core strategies that we write about in our definitive guide to thriving after cancer. And so I just want to again remind people that these strategies are, yes, about building health, but these strategies fit within what we've called the superhighways of influence in our body. So when we improve our spirit, when we rejuvenate ourselves, when we have regular movement, when we eat healthfully, and when we have an environment that supports our health, we actually start to move the needle away from disease and towards health. So these are very impactful strategies. They're not just sort of nice to do's. They're, I would kind of argue, must do's, at least in part. So I just wanted to kind of give that context to these
Yes.
categories.
Yes, and I think that our listeners will notice that these aren't complex, hard to do. These are small steps that you can take on a daily basis towards that improved health. And you can work on a few things this month, and then maybe work on a few things next month. And try not to overwhelm yourself with these strategies. Just try to take it in and just do one or two at a time. Small steps, right, Lise?
Small steps, especially, again, I think that, I don't know about you, Carolyn, but I'm finding myself just the rapidity of information, the options we have before us, you know, just the demands of our time, the promise, the sort of requests of our energy, like, it's all a lot. And so I
Hmm.
think your advice to just take a step, take a moment, and pick a couple and work your way through it is really important, because you don't want to use these tips and just add to the chaos of your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that was a great, we covered a lot, Lise. Thank you so much. Now it's time to thank our sponsors one last time. First, ProThrivers Wellness Sleep and Brain Formulas, Cetria Glutathione, the superior glutathione to support liver and immune health, and Dr. O'Hara's award-winning shelf-stable probiotic. And just remember that you can find past shows at ithriveplan.com or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Carolyn, and thanks to our sponsors. And thanks to you, listener, for listening. May you experience joy, laughter, and love. It's time to thrive. Have a great night.